Hello, I'm Nari McDiarmid from Mining Journal, and today I'm speaking with Ian Bamborough, the Managing Director of Saturn Metals. Now, Ian, you're at the helm of a relatively new company, so for anyone yet to come across it, how would you best describe Saturn Metals?
Yep, I'd say a successful gold exploration and development company based in Western Australia. We've got our Apollo Hill, just under 1 million ounces gold asset in the central eastern goldfields of Western Australia. We've got a really nice exploration property in New South Wales as well.
Well, if we take a look first, Ian, at West Woylong, your joint venture in New South Wales, that's seen some pretty high-grade historical gold production and some samples of up to 155 grams per tonne. You've just started your first drilling program there. What's your focus?
Yeah, look, the West Wyalong thing's a kind of hidden gem, I think, or perhaps I think of it as a bit of a unicorn. The history of the place, I suppose, it was mined late 1800s, early 1900s for a period of just about 25 years, produced just under 500,000 ounces, and importantly, at an ounce per tonne. So very, very, very rich by modern standards. Production stopped there due to the onset of World War I, and we think due to a loss of labour, and pretty much quite a mature and important asset in Australia's gold history has literally just been, for want of better words, forgotten and left dormant until recent times. We have some our joint venture partners are two very learned and experienced New South Wales geologists who spent the time scouring the old mining records, found this thing, and we were lucky enough to meet them and come to an agreement to explore it with them. And I suppose we've digitized every one of the old historical workings. We've been to the local historical society, produced these beautiful 3D pictures of the old mine, and really tried to hone in on what we saw with I suppose the most prospective, thickest, richest parts of the structure and geology, and drill it again, really. And that's where we're at. We're going after the nice high grade plunging shoots that the old timers chased, and obviously hopefully the bits that were left, perhaps as that production declined at the end of, and well, the start of World War One. So a really rare opportunity.
Well, you've described it as a bit forgotten, perhaps, or a unicorn. Why do you think its potential has been overlooked until now?
I think literally that historical effect of perhaps there was maybe a decline in the gold price at that same time as World War One was onset, the loss of labour, the loss of the skill set. It's a strong farming region, which has been, I guess, the focus of the town ever since. And you can literally just see where holes have been filled in and times forgotten, in much the same way as we see commodity cycles in Western Australia or other parts of the world. This one just seems to have got lost. Or I suppose another thing is that particular area has been a huge focus of exploration of some of the bigger companies. For example, Evolution at the moment, with Cowell Gold Mine, which is about 42 kilometres to the north. And that's slightly different style of mineralisation. And I guess a lot of companies have focused on that style of mineralisation rather than, these old sort of vein loads and systems. And I think now with obviously a much higher gold price or better gold environment, it really is worth a look at these things. So yeah, we're excited to have the drill rig turning, and every morning I come in and see what photos we've turned up, and yeah, it's good stuff.
If we look across to Western Australia now and Saturn's original project, Apollo Hill, you mentioned you've just upgraded the resource there to almost 1 million ounces. So what's next for this project?
More and better, I would like to say. So since we're listed, you mentioned, a relatively new company, I guess 3 years ago. we've set out to, I suppose, the Apollo Hill gold system I see as a very, very big gold system. It's almost a camp, a mine camp. And since listing, we've added 500,000 ounces. We've converted 60% of the resource to indicated, so we're bringing the quality up. We've encompassed that within an open pit shell now. So again, that quality has come up. And I suppose at each step of the 3 resource upgrades we've done, we brought that closer and closer to a mining picture. So quality improvements will continue. This year, particularly, I think we've seen the highest intersections we've ever seen in the last sort of half year. A number of much higher grade hits. The size of the system has increased with a Ra Tefnut corridor to the south. We've focused on, underneath those pit shells, some key leverage points to help us kind of maneuver things out and expand things. We're working on the metallurgy at the moment we see some, one of the great things about this deposit, I mean, there's no getting away from it. It's a big tonnage, low grade deposit. And quite often the low grade can put people off. But when we look at its geometries, its thickness, it provides us with an opportunity for a very low strip ratio. So much, much lower cost. You're not moving as much waste to ore. Secondly, because of its size, we can look at economies of scale, and the selective mining unit that we use is much bigger than sort of typical operations, and that pushes your unit cost down. It allows you to look at bigger milling operations. And again, we're working in, I think we've got about 197 composites of metallurgy underway, where we're looking at, perhaps one of our biggest differentiators is a very, to date anyway, from the sort of 30 samples that have been done, very high gravity component, which means cheap physical processing. And then the material, as the gold has been easily liberated, so grind size, energy, that kind of thing is much lower than sort of typical deposits. And you put those things together and you end up with a big, simple, stable, hopefully one-day operation. So going back to that original question, a lot more, a lot better, and a lot better quality as well. And I think, given the intersections we've had this year, there's potential to leverage that grade back in the right direction as well, as we have done in the past with some of our resources. So onwards and upwards.
So Ian, with activity happening on both sides of the country, what sort of news flow can investors expect to hear in the coming months?
Well, we've been pretty regular with our results flow this year. There's, in terms of Apollo Hill in Western Australia, I think we've got about 70 holes pending at the moment, 70 RC holes. I mentioned the 200 composites of metallurgy that we're waiting, and I think that will show some good grade information and perhaps provide a clearer image of a route for processing. And I think that also, those two things, I guess, an expansion of the mineralization plus the way we approach it, eventually, and talking about news flow, will lead into a resource upgrade. And we're trying to add all the different elements at Apollo Hill we've done. I talked about the kind of leverage drilling under the pit. We've done the extensional drilling, the drilling where we've focused on grade and higher grade plunging shoots, plus the metallurgy. And I would like to think that 1 + 1 + 1 + 1 might equal 6, not 4. So that information will continue to flow out at regular stages throughout the next 6 months. That resource framework is very much underway, and right now our focus is changing at Apollo Hill to the 1,000 square kilometres of ground that we've got around us. I'm delighted to say this year we've got the biggest, healthiest exploration budget we've ever had, and as a result of that, we're going to focus our activities now for the next 6 months on the the huge land package, the greenstone belt around us, and look for those new opportunities that can either complement Apollo Hill, or who knows, there could be sort of hidden giant out there. And the first phase of work will be broad spaced air core lines across absolute green fields, greenstone terrain that's never been touched. So 2-3 kilometre spaced lines, 300 metre spaced holes along the line. And we're looking for a big mineralised system to explore and develop and add to Apollo Hill. Beyond that, West Wyalong's obviously underway, and I think I put in the announcement, it's going to take about 45 days before we see that picture come together. But there'll be a lot of drill core, hopefully a lot to cut and assay and report to people. And I suppose that provides two different contexts for the company and two exciting information streams.
Well, Ian, thank you very much for providing an update today.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.